Hello, I'm Mark, and this is a free extract from my highly rated online course, Better Email Writing Skills. Here you'll learn how to master your inbox and write emails that have impact and get results. If you want to take your writing further, check out the link in the description. Okay, let's go. In 1971, this man, Ray Tomlinson, sent an electronic message from this computer that said something like, "QWERTY yup," and the world changed. Today, almost 4 billion people send around 300 billion emails to each other every day. That's a lot of emails. Now, lots of these are spam that we don't even see. Others might be from friends or from email subscriptions we've signed up for. Local concert venues, a daily dose of Stoic philosophy, the latest offers from our favourite websites. The sort of thing we can read and delete at our leisure. But the average office worker still gets around 40 emails a day that they need to pay attention to, and many of us get far more than that. Email is a significant part of our working life. It's extraordinarily useful, but it can also be an extraordinary source of frustration. Sometimes it can feel like we're slaves to our inbox, that our lives are dominated by a blizzard of impatient electronic messages demanding our immediate attention. The emails we send can be even more stressful. They represent us, who we are, what we do. The words we write can be the difference between success and failure. Badly written emails can damage our reputation, lose a sale, even end our careers. But well-written emails can do the opposite. They can boost your reputation, increase your sales, and enhance your career. In this course, I'm going to take you step by step through a number of practical ways you can improve the quality and effectiveness of your emails and help you to manage and respond to the emails you receive. We're going to look at what you need to think about before you send an email, the vital importance of a good subject line, the style and content of your email, including attachments, who to send your emails to and how to do it, the dangers of the reply all button, how to organise yourself so you're no longer the slave but the master of your inbox, and email security. The lessons in this course are applicable to any email software you might use, but I'm going to demonstrate using two of the most common ones, Outlook and Gmail. Now, I try to speak clearly and at a steady pace throughout, but if you prefer that I speak a little faster or a little slower, remember that you can adjust the playback speed of this video using the controls on the screen, just next to the play/pause button. All in all, we're going to transform how you write, organise and reply to emails, improving your career and your business while doing it. So with no further ado, let's get started. With any sort of writing, and especially when writing an email, the temptation is to dive in and start putting words on the screen. You're a busy person with lots to do. By dashing off an email, you'll be able to tick a task off your list and move on. I get it, but before you write, think. And ask yourself a number of questions. The first question is, what is your objective? What do you want to achieve with this email? Be specific. Do you want someone to do something for you? Are you giving someone some information they asked for? Are you making contact with a potential new customer and you want them to visit your website? Never start writing an email before you are first crystal clear as to what the objective of that email is. Okay, so now you know your objective. Ask yourself whether writing an email is the best way of achieving that objective. Would it in fact be better if you arranged a meeting and met face to face? Or if you picked up the telephone and spoke to them? What about social media? There are many different ways to communicate, and email is just one of them. So make sure you make a conscious decision every time you open Outlook or Gmail that this is the best way to achieve your objective. It might be the easiest option, but will it get you the outcome that you really want? If you're set on writing an email, you also need to consider the relationship that you have with the person you're emailing. Do you know them or not? Do you know them well? Do they like you, and so they'd welcome an email from you, or is your relationship a little more difficult than that? You need to be conscious of the answers to these vital questions before you start writing. Now remember, your email represents you and the company or organisation that you represent. If this is for work, then it needs to say to the reader, here is a professional person that I can take seriously, that I can work with, that I can do business with. In each case, here are some of the things you need to think about before you send an email. First, your email address. If you're using your personal email address for work, make sure that you use something that will give a good impression. I love Pokemon2000@gmail.com might have been fun when you were a kid, but it won't do at all if you're now a freelance accountant and want to be taken seriously. Try and include your name in some way so that it is easy for your reader to identify you before they open an email. Second, always remember how easy it is for your email to be forwarded to others, and that you have absolutely no control over to whom it is forwarded. When I used to work for the British Civil Service, we would say never write in an email something that you wouldn't be happy seeing plastered over the front page of a national newspaper. Likewise, don't write something you wouldn't be comfortable being read by your boss or by the people you might talk about in that email. Don't use email to spread gossip or rumours. You might find that they come back to bite you if you do. Third, don't think that deleting an email actually deletes an email. It might be gone from your inbox, but it will still exist on the company servers and in the inboxes of the person or people that you sent it to, and the people that they sent it to. Fourth, always be aware of the type of information you are sending in an email. Be especially careful when sending confidential, personal, or financial information. Certainly never include things like passwords in your emails. Again, it's very easy for this to spread far beyond the intended recipient, and hacking is always a possibility. Also, and we'll go into this in more detail later, you may be in breach of local laws about privacy or data protection. Finally, check your emotions. Never email if you're angry or upset. The old expression, act in haste, repent at leisure, is appropriate here. If you email when you're angry, you might feel better in the moment, but you might also make the situation a whole lot worse. Even if you write it, just to vent some frustration, and I've certainly done this a few times, don't send it. And don't accidentally add the person's email address. The worst thing is to write something you don't actually mean to send and then send it by mistake. Now that could be very awkward indeed. Whatever you're writing, the first thing you need to do is to grab your reader's attention. Whether it's the opening page of a novel or the first line of a report, every word you write has one overriding job: to keep your reader reading. To convince them that the words that follow are important and worthy of their time. When you're talking about hard copy, you've got about 20 seconds to get your reader's attention. But when you jump to a screen, that time falls dramatically. I always think you've got about 2 seconds to hook your reader in. When it comes to email, we're talking about your subject line. The subject line is the single most important line you write in an email, but it often gets the least attention. A poor subject line could mean your email is ignored or instantly deleted, in which case it doesn't matter how brilliant the rest of it is, nobody's going to see it. If I get an email with a subject line of forward, hi, I'm probably going to ignore it. The main thing to do is to ensure your subject line is clear and concise. It should tell your reader what the email is about, give an indication of what, if anything, they need to do, and, if appropriate, when they need to do it by. And keep it short, as software like Outlook will cut off the subject line if it's too long. So don't write hugely long subjects that won't even be displayed. With any subject line, you only have a small amount of space to make an impact, so don't be afraid of being direct. For internal emails, if I want someone to do something for me, I start with the word action. This instantly tells the reader that the email requires them to do something. If there is a deadline attached to that action, and there should always be a deadline attached to an action, add it immediately afterwards. So I would write action by 4 p.m. or action by Tuesday 9 a.m. This will instantly hook the recipient's attention, as they can see right away that they need to do something and that they have a deadline. Then you need to give them an idea of what this is about. Now, I'm a speechwriter, so invariably my emails are about a speech I'm writing. So I might put action by 4 p.m, hospital reform speech. You don't need to go into any more detail in the subject line, just enough to get them to open the email and read on. Other words I might use instead of action include approval, if I'm sending something to my boss for them to approve. I might also add a deadline to give an indication of when they have to approve something by. Info, to indicate that there are no actions relating to this email, but that it still contains information the reader will find important. Handling. When I'm responding to an email, I might add this to tell someone that I'm doing what they've tasked me to do. It means they don't even have to open the email to see that I'm on the case. Done. Similarly, this will show that I've taken care of what I was asked to do. Urgent. If something is needed in a hurry, add urgent at the start, but don't overuse it. If everything you write is urgent, then pretty soon, nothing will be. If you're in a team where all of you use an agreed set of opening words like these, then another advantage is that you can sort your emails by the subject line. For example, to see what actions you need to take, or approvals you need to give. Now, remember to constantly pay attention to your subject line as your email grows to become a chain. Don't be afraid to change a subject line over time. If it started as an action, but that action has now been taken, delete the word from the subject line and possibly replace it with done. Make sure the subject line is always up to date and is directly relevant. In Outlook, changing the subject line is easy. You just change the subject line. But with Gmail, it's a little more difficult. When you reply to an email, you don't actually see the subject line. So you have to remember to think about it. To change it, click on the little down arrow next to the email address and click Edit Subject. Now you'll get a pop-up box showing your full email and you can edit the subject. Finally, make sure you don't use all caps, lots of exclamation marks, or URLs in your subject line. These tend to be picked up by spam filters, and you never want to be spam. In the next lesson, we're going to look at your email's style. In this lesson, we're going to look at the style of writing that you should use in a professional email. There are 3 sections: the look, the tone, and the text. Each is important, and getting each one right can make the difference between achieving your objective or not. First, the look. First things first, always be kind to your reader. The text needs to be in a font that's easy to read. Something like Arial, Calibri, or Times are all fine. A business email is not the time to be messing around with Comic Sans or Blackadder ITC. It also has to be big enough to be comfortable to read. Between 10 and 14 points is fine. And keep your words black against a white background for the initial email. Outlook will probably change the text colour to blue when you reply to an email, and that's fine too. But avoid colours that contrast poorly, such as yellow against white. That can be hard to read, or others like blue against purple can be uncomfortable on the eye and practically impossible if you're colourblind. Black and white have worked for centuries, so there's no need to reinvent the wheel. Keep your creativity for the words you write. Whatever words you write, keep your email clear, brief, and direct. Respect your reader. They are busy people with lots of other emails and tasks to get through each day. Make their life easier, even if it makes your life a bit harder. As a writer, it should always be you doing the work and not your reader. Emails should always be short. They should be measured in tens or at an absolute maximum, the low hundreds of words. An email that is more than a few hundred words is unlikely to be welcome and even less likely to be read. If you have something long that you need to share, put it into a Word document and send it as an attachment. I remember receiving a 3,000 word email from a neighbour once. I actually pasted it into a Word document to count the number of words. And surprise, surprise, I never read it. As well as keeping your email brief, lay them out clearly too. Use bullet points for lists and use plenty of white space. This will make it look like it's going to be a pleasure to read and not a chore. Look at these two examples. One, a solid block of text. The other, broken up with lots of white space and bullet points. Both contain the exact same words, but which looks more inviting? Second, the tone. When writing an email, always be professional in your tone. But there is no need to be overly formal. Excessively flowery language only wastes your reader's time. Respect your reader and get to the point with as few words as possible. Be polite. But being direct doesn't mean being rude. Not at all. The simple addition of words like please and thank you can make all the difference when you're asking a direct question. So instead of writing, send me the report at 5 p.m, you lose nothing and gain a lot by writing, please send me the report at 5 p.m, thanks. A good idea if you're in regular communication with someone is to reflect the style of language that they like to use. This is something most people do naturally face to face. Compare how you would speak with your best friend with how you would speak with the Queen. They're probably not the same. Unless, I suppose, if the Queen happens to be your best friend. It's possible. This isn't being underhand or sly. It's just good communication. It's about recognizing someone's preferences and establishing an emotional connection. So if the person you're writing to tends to be a bit more formal or a bit less formal than you are normally, try reflecting their style back to them. Don't assume. When you write to someone, an easy trap to fall into is to assume that they have the same knowledge and understanding of a subject as you do. We all do this. Think about when you started a new job and it felt like everyone was speaking a foreign language with terms and acronyms you didn't understand. It was bewildering at first. Then, after a time, you learned to use them like everyone else. Then, when someone else new joined the team, it was you speaking the foreign language and the new person being confused. Always avoid assumed knowledge in your writing. An email is no different. Think carefully about how well you know the person you're writing to. Do they have the same understanding of the subject matter as you do? Really? Think about the words and phrases you're using and double check that you're not including words or abbreviations that they may be unfamiliar with. Because if you are, then you're going to confuse and possibly lose your reader. Beware humour. A joke among friends is one thing, but in the world of business, a joke that misfires can be very costly indeed. One of my favourite stories of a joke gone wrong is about when Gerald Ratner, the CEO of a UK jewellery store, made a joke about the quality of his shop's goods at a conference. The joke backfired massively and wiped almost £1 billion from the value of his company's shares. Ouch. One person's joke is another person's insult. And in an email, you don't control your tone of voice. You have no facial expression to indicate that you're joking. You just have your words in harsh, unforgiving black and white. And when there's money or your reputation at stake, just don't risk it. Different cultures. To extend the previous point on humour, always be sensitive to different cultures. In our globalised world, you're likely to be communicating with people from all over the planet. They will have very different backgrounds, histories, religions, philosophies, senses of humour. It's easy to make mistakes, even offend people without even realising it. The best way to avoid this is just to keep your email short, simple, to the point, and polite. A specific area of caution is metaphor and analogy, using something familiar to help describe the unfamiliar. Now, I love metaphor. They can really add life and colour to your writing, but you need to be careful. Just how universally understood is your metaphor? Ones that seem obvious to you can be confusing to someone from a different country. A while back, I received an email from an American colleague saying that the bases are loaded. I vaguely knew that this had something to do with baseball, but beyond that, I had no idea what it meant, and I certainly had no clue what it meant in the context of the email. It turned out that it meant that everything was in place for the project he was working on, and so all was well. He thought it was obvious. I had no idea. When you use a metaphor, always consider your reader, their culture, and the likelihood that they'll know what on earth you're talking about. And if you have any doubts, rewrite. Always remember it should be you doing the work and not your reader. Third, the text. Remember that when you're writing a professional email, you need to write in a professional manner. That means using full sentences, starting with a capital letter and ending with a full stop or period. Using proper punctuation and grammar is vital. As soon as you stop doing this, confusion can sneak into your work and you can quickly lose your reader. It can also convey laziness and a lack of attention to detail. Is this really the impression you want to make? Also, since you're not writing someone a text message, don't use text speak. Again, it might be okay with your friends, but it's not okay for work. Make sure you don't fill your email with caps. It's the written equivalent of shouting at your reader and it's rude. Don't do it. And look out for exclamation marks. Only use them rarely and only ever use one at a time. In the next lesson, we're going to be looking at your content. I hope you enjoyed this free extract from my course, Better Email Writing Skills. This is just the first 5 videos, but I hope you found them valuable. If you want to carry on, this course continues for another 10 videos. As well as the content of your emails, I'll show you how you can manage your reader and your team through email, getting them to do what you want them to do. We'll also look at how you can master your inbox with efficient organisation techniques, and how to stay safe online with improved email security. If that all sounds interesting to you, check out the full course in the description, and I'll see you in there.